Hola, buenas tardes. Bueno, yo soy brasileño, mi idioma es el portugués. Entonces voy a hablar español con acento portugués. Espero que la traducción no tenga problemas con eso. Bueno, el título de esta sesión es Economía Civil, definición y estrategias para el bien vivir sostenible. Bueno, ¿qué tiene que decir entonces la economía civil sobre este tema, ¿no? de la sociedad sostenible? Doy las gracias a Leonardo por la cantidad de informaciones buenas, positivas de este tema del bien vivir, desde las experiencias que tenéis de ese lado del charco del Atlántico. Voy a detenerme en una o dos más notas, no es una respuesta, porque yo no tengo muchas respuestas, yo tengo muchas dudas, más preguntas que soluciones o cuestiones más abiertas, ¿no? Yo tengo por lo menos tres notas que me gustaría compartir con ustedes en estos 10 minutos. El primero, parto siempre de preguntas, ¿no? El sistema económico actual me parece que es insostenible o no se sostiene. Me parece que este debería ser el punto de partida, tal vez, de esa reflexión, de este seminario de economía civil. Se puede considerar la economía civil como una respuesta posible a la pregunta del Papa Francisco en Laudato Si. ¿Qué tipo de mundo queremos dejar a quien va a sucedernos, a los niños que están creciendo, ¿no? El tema de la sociedad sostenible. El Papa Francisco luego en la primera exhortación, Evangelii Gaudium, dio el tono de su pontificado, cuando dijo con todas las letras, no a una economía de la exclusión y la desigualdad. También en el encuentro mundial de los movimientos populares en Bolivia, nos dejó otra gran pregunta. ¿Queremos una mudanza real, una mudanza de estructuras? La globalización de la esperanza que irrompe en los pueblos y crece entre los pobres debe reemplazar esta globalización de la exclusión y de la indiferencia. Bueno, yo soy de las ciencias teológicas, soy profesor de ética social, no soy economista, tampoco un científico político. Se puede decir que soy un teólogo o un trabajador de la teología. Y para un teólogo cristiano, la realidad es anterior a las ideas. El teólogo tiene que primero escuchar la realidad, acoger las ideas y las teorías que parten desde la realidad también. Y me parece que hoy la realidad de la extrema pobreza de miles de seres humanos es la que provoca nuestros debates sobre economía y el tema de la sustentabilidad ecológica. Me parece que debe estar claro para nosotros que hay que replantear la economía, sim, desde los pobres, desde los descartados. Essa realidad es anterior a las ideas de proyectos económicos. Me parece que outra realidade é o capitalismo. O capitalismo se ha convertido em um modelo de civilização, é muito mais que um sistema econômico, porque junto com o capitalismo surgiu também uma nova ordem, uma lógica e uma estrutura de poder. Então, a crise que temos hoje não é solamente a crise de um sistema econômico ou de um aspecto particular, é uma crise de civilização que ameaça a vida em la madre tierra. Bueno, de la Biblia aprendemos que el amor desordenado al dinero es la fuente de todos los males. San Juan Crisóstomo, comentando essa cita bíblica, nos dijo, no existe demonio más cruel, más violento que ese, el demonio de la avaricia. Me parece que la desigualdad se ha agravado de forma significativa en el siglo XXI. Estamos en una sociedad insostenible desde el punto de vista social, ecológico e político. Eu vengo de um país que vive hoje um saqueio dos recursos naturais e de bens públicos. O Estado, a sociedade e o meio ambiente foram absorvidos por la economia. Uma pergunta que me vem desde ayer é que se pode falar de capitalismo em plural e não solamente em sinônimo. Não há capitalismos. Ou quantos tipos de capitalismo existem? Eu hablo do capitalismo que se impuso em Latinoamérica, Hablo desde esse lugar, desde essa realidade. Mi lugar é o sul do mundo, desde um país que sofre as formas de violência mais crueles deste tipo de capitalismo. E somos governados em Brasil hoje, isso me parece claro para todos, não tanto por uma plutocracia, mas por uma cleptocracia, que se impôs como forma de governo. É importante dizer essas coisas porque há que falar em plural. Os estados, quando falamos estado, os estados não são todos iguais, seguro. As sociedades civis não são todas iguais. Os mercados não são todos iguais. De qual sociedade civil estamos falando? De qual estado estamos nos referindo? Eu falo desde meu país, de minha sociedade civil e do estado que temos hoje em Brasil. O segundo ponto que me gostaria de falar é o tema, também está em el título desta tarde, desta sessão, é de responsabilidade social. O mercado determina, por lo menos desde meu país, a organização da sociedade e também o papel do Estado. E é uma sociedade civil que não reaciona como deveria. Então, como se pode exigir responsabilidades sociais dentro de sua lógica de Estado, quando a economia, o mercado que temos, tem uma visão muito particular do Estado? É dizer, me parece que o capitalismo neoliberal não elimina o Estado, mas cambia sua agenda. Eu não sei o que é pior. Hoje, o que temos é que a economia de mercado é uma combinação perfeita entre economia e política. Os governos e as empresas têm compromisso, por lo menos em meu país, com o mercado. E o mercado necessita controlar o Estado para garantizar que sua lógica se imponga sobre toda a sociedade. E a redução da política a la fuerza del dinero hace o governo praticamente imune à la participação da sociedade civil. Da igual o que pensa a sociedade civil. O ponto 2, também há muitas perguntas, o tema da economia civil e a responsabilidade social. Bueno, eu hablo desde a teologia, sou professor de ética teológica, então hablo desde a ética teológica. E desde a ética teológica, o primeiro sempre é a justiça. Já nos dijo Aristóteles, Santo Tomás, nos dijo também John Rawls, nos está dizendo Michael Sandel, e nos dijo Jesucristo. É dizer, cumprir com os deveres de justiça é a primeira responsabilidade social. E qual é a primeira responsabilidade social de um cidadão ou de um empresário, de uma empresa? É pagar os impostos. A justiça e o direito são anteriores, então, ao tema da reciprocidade e ao tema do dom, por lo menos em meu país, que tem uma cleptocracia que tem miles e miles de dólares em las Islas Caimã. Segundo, a economia civil defende a tese de que são três os sujeitos responsáveis por el bem do conjunto social. É dizer, a responsabilidade social não se basa unicamente em la dicotomia público-privada, Estado e mercado, senão em três sujeitos: o público, o privado e o civil. Cada um deles tem seus próprios princípios reguladores e modos específicos de ação na concreção dessa responsabilidade. É dizer, não existe só a produção e a acumulação da renda e da riqueza garantizada pelo mercado. Há reciprocidade e há dom. Este valor se estabelece de maneiras distintas. O terceiro e último ponto é o tema da economia civil e sociedade ecologicamente sustentável. Os problemas ambientais estão diretamente relacionados com os problemas da pobreza e da desigualdade social. Há que replantear aqui o tema da justiça outra vez, a justiça intergeneracional. Pergunto, a economia civil é uma economia sustentável desde o ponto de vista das gerações? É uma economia alternativa à economia atual, que devasta a casa comum? Ou é um paliativo? Quer dizer, para tomar decisões sobre o meio ambiente, há que considerar a todos os seres humanos, a natureza presente e futura. Aqui há que recordar o princípio de responsabilidade planteado por Hans Jonas, né? Por fim, é o último tema. Qual é o alcance da economia civil em el compromisso com a sociedade sustentável? Aqui levanta o tema de los niveles de economia, dizer, para qual grupo econômico estamos falando. Me parece que muitos princípios, lógicas e códigos que funcionam em el âmbito de pequenos grupos sociais não funcionam da mesma maneira em la esfera macroeconômica nacional ou global. O passo de um nível a outro não se dá de modo linear. Né? Então, aqui a pergunta final é como construir uma economia aliada da sociedade civil e do meio ambiente. Né? E a questão fundamental é essa, a coexistência com o capitalismo em um país dominado por um tipo muito particular de capitalismo. Como viabilizar uma economia de mercado, de interesse social e ecológico, neste contexto? Bueno, me quedo. O tempo já se acabou. Gracias.
Muy bien. Muchas gracias, profesor Gasda, por levantar esos puntos muy relevantes de desafíos para la economía civil. Bien, toca el turno ahora al profesor André Habisch, que tiene también 10 minutos para su participación.
Yeah, thank you. I will try to speak a little slower for the translations also. And let's recall our question for this session. I may cite from the program. What institutional and political instruments are needed in order to foster a more positive interaction between the logic of the market, state, and civil society, so to achieve the national, international, and global common good? What types of public policies are needed in order to promote a culture of business and economy that integrates economic and social goals? I think Leonardo has presented an important paper for answering these questions, innovative in many ways. Let me start with his remarks on the macroeconomic policies. He very carefully resumes the state of the discussion, also in international journals, about the state of discussion about these macroeconomic policies. In the rich countries, government plays an important role, and of course the crucial role, in promoting the integration of economic and social goals. Governments have to prevent tax dodging and take fiscal responsibility seriously, and we already spoke about that during these days. Governments can revise their procurement policies accordingly, can foster the creation of new types of work and work alliances. Taxes and additional payments can be tailored to certain social and ecological goals. For example, avoiding unnecessary waste or imposing additional taxes on unsustainable consumption. Good consumption can then be subsidized with the money raised by these taxes. However, also the downsides of that policy should be mentioned, and we discussed this already today critically about the nudging and Thaler proposal. Because well-educated upper-class politicians may have a different perspective on what is good and bad behavior than poor single mothers who have to feed herself and her children in a dire economic situation. For macroeconomics to work well in the interest of the poor, we need advocacy groups in civil societies who are raising their voices. Co-determination rights and tripartite structures of self-administration, for example, in the labor market, institutions are important devices here. And I will speak about that tomorrow, referring to the German situation. Moreover, we should not forget that in many parts of the world, and especially in poor countries, the governments and public institutions are weak and cannot play their role very well. corruption is threatening public rules, preventing them from safeguarding social and ecologic goals. And my colleague Gasda just spoke from kleptocracy. This is precisely what I mean here. Therefore, beyond policies, we should also ask for institutions which can effectively impact the behavior of powerful economic actors. Subsidiary self-administrative bodies can play that role. Advocates of the poor critically observing the enforcement of rules could play that role. Co-determination rights for labor representatives can be important here. Caritas in Veritate maintains that morality is not something practiced only in the civil society or in the public sector, but it's also found in the business world itself. We have already reflected yesterday on the facts, for example, in President Archer's contribution, that civil society is not a meadow of flowers endowed with altruism and common good mindsets. Rather, we also face destructive competition between NGO leaders who sometimes put their common social goal at risk for strategies to increase their competitive position. What becomes obvious in Leonardo's paper, however, is also the complementary fact that a company is not a collective actor driven by profit motives only, but rather a conglomerate of very different motivations and mentalities, which also find themselves in permanent conflict with each other. For example, he refers to the problem of excessive remuneration of top managers. And I will skip the citation at that point. We can add here that corresponding public initiatives are already on their way. For example, the Global Reporting Initiative Framework, GRI4, which is the most important instrument for non-financial reporting, contains questions about board member compensation. It is a decision of the European Commission that non-financial reporting along the lines of GRI4 frameworks become obligatory for stock exchange listed companies and selected major privately owned companies beginning this year. This seems to me a development to which not enough attention is paid outside of a small group of CSR researchers. However, with the data of these non-financial reports, it would be easy to form a ranking of business leaders' compensation to be published on an IT platform, thus creating transparency about greedy top management. Advocacy groups within an NGO community, but also among critical shareholders, could work with this information in the public. What we perceive here are genuine forms of controlling international business in the 21st century. Public framework, together with civil society activists, may call for public attention where national governments can no longer effectively or not powerfully enough control their international companies, what we also called a multi-level governance. Finally, following the lines of Caritas in Veritate, Leonardo proposes an area of interest which is hardly elaborated in Catholic social thought. Caritas in Veritate points toward responsible consumer behavior. I cited, the potential of the vote with the wallet is as immense as hardly exploited, but very effective. In particular, Leonardo writes about responsible finance. In an age of digitalization and globalization, in which national governments can no longer effectively control international companies, ethical finance may play an important role, for example, in working towards fair labor conditions in developing countries. However, for responsible investment to effectively play that role, we have to work on professionalizing it substantially. Today, every investment company can start its own ethical fund without giving any witness in which sense the fund is really sustainable. A fund, however, can only claim to be sustainable when it effectively impacts the behavior of companies. Thus, we need some kind of criteria for investors whether a fund is really fulfilling that claim or whether it only maintains to execute ethical goals in order to attract clients. Public or private organizations must set public and international standards for financial funds, whether they really play their role of cultivating economic practice on international markets. What did Pope Francis tell us in the audience today? Civil society is a younger sister, taking her older sister, state and market by the hand and drawing them forward. This is how I view the role of civil society, he said, drawing the state and the market forward so we can reconsider their raison d'etre and their modus operandi. In times of digitalization and globalization, there are potentials of self-regulating of international business, thus complementing the fading governments. However, this needs some kind of economic underpinning and professional performance. Church-related initiatives may play a guiding role in this respect in the 21st century. Thank you.
Bien. No, muchas gracias, profesor André, por colocar también estos temas relacionados con la política pública, con los temas de complementariedad e inversión. Bueno, tendríamos unos minutos que le podríamos dar al profesor Leonardo para que dé una primera respuesta a estas dos intervenciones.
Sí, I start from the first and then to the second. I think if all the points of civil economics are achieved, no, individuals being self-searcher and social rationality, corporate social responsibility, the new way of looking at value, we are in a new economy. We are not, it depends on what you mean for capitalism. If for capitalism you means the dictatorship or the fact that the owners of capital are hierarchically subordinated to all the other stakeholders, we are not anymore in capitalism, okay, with that. If people do that, we are not anymore in capitalism. It's not palliative, it's another word. Second, I think that you said it's true, you quoted the Pope saying realidad is better than idea. Yes, I'm talking about reality. I showed you reality, I not showed you ideas. I showed you example of things that we are doing. And I can understand, I show you the best, which is something that the Italian government is doing because all the political parties voted for that, and we made a campaign as a civil society to achieve that goal. This can be done in any country. I may understand it in some country you may have a more difficult situation. We heard the cry of Jeff Sachs yesterday about the United States, but it's something that has been done and can be done somewhere else. Collecting the best practice around the country in order to disseminate, to contaminate, that can be done. It has been done, and we have the database. Collecting the 48 best local administration behaviors, it can be done, and it has been done. So I'm talking about reality, not about ideas. Of course, we need an horizon toward within the vision. We need a direction for our point. I understand that you are, the main question is, I didn't talk a lot about the problem we have. I don't think we are here to contemplate the evil. We are here to create solution to the problem, okay? And so the point is, okay, we all like a change. We all have an horizon and we more or less agree about that horizon. The problem is that who is the Deus ex machina which is going to change the world for us? No one. And we still think that there are this power that control everything. The market is made by consumers. The market is made by investors. We are half of the market. Without us, the market does not exist. We are the market. So the issue is that we are the problem. And we have the power, in theory, of change everything. So my point is, I mean, I can tell you anecdotically, if today you want to make the revolution, the only way you can do it is using consumption and investment, because that's the only power you have. You don't have any power as a worker. If you make a strike as a worker of a manufacturing company, the manufacturing company the day after says, workers in this country, I can't stand them and go in another country where I can exploit better the work. That's how globalization works. So we have to change our instruments. The instruments is this. The point is, as I showed, of course, use of this instrument is not easy. You need coordination, you need awareness, you need information. And that's why in finance it went on much better. Why? Because in finance there is coordination. If I have to bring 100 people to a market to buy a fair trade product, that's very difficult. But if I am the owner of an investment fund and I already have the savings of all these people together, I already solved the problem of coordination. And I have a lot of power. That's why Interfaith Center for Corporate Responsibility is born. And it's born from the religious organization in the United States. So the only point is that we have to do it. Also the issue of small scale, large scale. Not everything I showed you is small scale. There are local administration. The issue of Montreal Pledge is not at all small scale, it's large scale. And I don't think that this distinction is so important. What is important is something as a perspective of growth. It may be small scale today, in a few time it can be large scale. So that's my point. With respect to Andre, I'm perfectly in line with you. I think the real issue, I see what's going on with the future because I'm in the board of these ethical funds today, and that's why we worked with the High on Buy initiative. Because the real power tomorrow corporate social responsibility will be very much a fashion. A lot of companies will say that, maybe they won't do it. So the real power will be of ethical rating agencies, like today, Standard & Poor, Moody. Okay, the Standard & Poor and Moody of ethical rating, they will have a lot of power. So the issue is, who are these companies? What is their governance? Who own them? So that's a very important point. Who creates the criteria? That's why also here the church has a reputation and can do a lot. Because in order to be to have a reputation, in order to be believed, you need a good reputation. You say, okay, for example, ethical committees of investment funds, they are often priests, they're often people of the church, because people say, okay, that's the assets of this company, the reputation of these people. I know that the work can change, but these people have reputation, and if they say that this is the right way, I can follow them. So there is a lot of role. I think that the church should not just say what is the bad in the world, but it should work to make this instrument viral and to lead this change.
Muchas gracias, profesor Leonardo. Monseñor Sánchez Oronda pidió la palabra.
Yo lo que me parece, ¿no? Mi opinión modesta, ante un profesor tan importante, romano, es que hay que distinguir muy bien los continentes y hay que distinguir muy bien los países. La receta no es igual para todos. Lo que está diciendo Fuentes es muy serio. Brasil no tiene que ver con Italia, pero nada que ver, nada que ver. Entonces es imposible aplicar las recetas que pueden ser buenas para Italia, porque las mismas multinacionales que aquí hacen eso, allí tiran Nestlé, allá va y tira todas las porquerías que no hace en Suiza. Entonces, este es el punto, que hay que tener en cuenta una situación totalmente diferente y, consecuentemente, las soluciones son diferentes. Yo quedé muy impresionado de lo que dijo Grabois, que es parecido a lo que dice Fuentes. Es decir, hay que conocer la situación. El rey de Noruega estuvo viviendo 2 semanas en la selva brasilera y notó algunas cosas importantes. Yo no estuve 2 semanas en la selva brasilera, pero habría que ir para ver qué pasa.
Gracias, monseñor. Bueno, brevemente, profesor Leonardo, para luego pasar al siguiente.
No.
Bueno,
just
último.
Short on this, because it's. I think one point is true, that the level of civil society in Italy and Brazil may be completely different, even though in Brazil there are many, many interesting things that are happening at local level. But the other point is that I showed you Oxford behind the brand. Behind the brand is not talking about what Nestlé, Unilever do in Switzerland. It's giving marks for what they do in Brazil. So it's exactly the other way around. We make those rankings and we create pressure on those companies to change their behavior in Brazil. And of course, that depends on how much this campaign works. But there were like 1 million people doing pressure, and these companies are slowly changing. But why? Because we are making pressure to change their behavior there. We know this very well. I make you another example, Ferrero. Ferrero is a wonderful company, corporate social responsibility. People in Alba, when Ferrero is born, say that Ferrero, because Ferrero gives a lot of philanthropy there. But when Ferrero buys nuts all over the world, he has to buy nuts from whoever can sell them nuts, and they don't say anything else. So the issue is...
Nos ha regalado 10.000 euros. No me critique Ferrero.
So the corporate social responsibility problem of big companies is exactly on their value chain and on the relationship with their supplier. So that's what we are looking at. That's the most important things we are looking at. So of course, we are trying to do a work to improve situation there.
Very quickly. Civil economy as presented by you is a set of economic initiatives where the main protagonist is civil society. With the weakening of civil society we're seeing all over the world, which is the situation of civil economy? This is the first question. And the second, are you able to quantify the weight in this kind of civil economy in the global Italian economy? I mean, if you take, for instance, the data of Salomon about NGOs. NGOs in terms of its income, NGO is the 6th country in the world. Civil economy, it represents which percentage of Italian economy, more or less?
I say this, that if the civil society, the quality of the civil society, the quality of social consensus is fundamental for any, I don't believe in a politician which can overthrow with his strength the social consent of his society. I remember very well an NGO working against death penalty in the US. They said, we don't go to the governor. We try to create 51% people in favor against that penalty, then we go to the governor. So the issue is the politicians today, they follow consent, every moment, tomorrow polls. So it's very difficult. In Italy, what happened? There was a very strong campaign against migrants, and then the government, the left government, had to decide, okay, we have to stop that. They cannot do anything else because of the consensus. So I think there is no other way than working on the consensus, because the capacity of politicians to make a delta change, it's really, really small today. That's my opinion. Of course, what I want to say, I don't want to say that now civil society is triumphing everywhere. I just want to say that we have, if we want, we have great instruments. We have great power. We have the instruments to change things. If we don't use them, that's our problem and the difficulties of creating them. About the size of the civil economy in Italy, that's difficult to say. I can tell you, and Stefano can correct me if I make a mistake, I can tell you that cooperative economies is something like 10% of the GDP in Italy and 10% of workers. But then you may add up a lot of NGOs, of civil society organization, and social cooperatives, the newly born, and we have interesting phenomena like big corporations. Basically, what we are finding in Italy, and that was also a cover of economists, they call it hybridization of economy. They say that basically, I call them, we have on one side the rich of money and poor of sense, and the other side we have the rich of sense and poor of money, and inevitably they are going to mix in the middle. So basically, some companies want to enrich their sense and to do more in terms of impact, and there are many entrepreneurs that want to do that. On the other side, we have people of the NGOs, the third sector, that if they don't have autonomous capacity to create economic value, they become dependent of politics, and then it's a problem. So they develop some ways of creating economic value, maybe with renewable energy, fair trade, or something. They start something. And again, we have example of that in Italy. And it's interesting that the Economist dedicated a cover to that recently. So I mean that something can happen. Of course, we can go ahead and we can go back, but that's the